a little bit of sickness. Now I'm back. I prepared this message actually a couple of weeks ago to bring to you guys, and I was excited about it because of, I guess, the aspect of what it is that we're called to be as Christians, and trying to really fill my life up with that light that we're called to be, and just knowing Jesus and being able to share Jesus with the world around us. And we hear a lot of the time, this passage or this phrase being tossed about the light of the world, the light of the world, light of the world. And I decided to call my message, it was going to be light of the world, but I said, I want it to be light up the world. Let's light up, because I just think that is such a cool idea. And what a cool visual that is for us as Christians to think about lighting the world up. But then how do we do that? I mean, there's a big loaded question. Well, light up the world. What would it take? What would it take for us as Christians to really light up the world, to make the world different because of the light that we're bringing to it? Jesus is called the light of the world. I started wondering, if I were to ask us as Christians and just maybe take a poll across the congregation here, say, what does it mean? What does it mean when we ask, is Jesus the light of the world, and what does that look like? How would you answer it? It would be easy if someone said, hey, is the sun the light of the world? And for me to say, yeah, because the sun, and then we talk about the sun lights the world up. But then I say, is Jesus the light of the world? I'm like, yeah, because what does it mean? When it says that Jesus is the light of the world, how do we answer that? All right, sidetrack real quickly. How many people, you know how to answer it? Do you sleep with the light on? Do you sleep with the door closed? I mean, we have blackout curtains in our bedroom because it's just hard for me to sleep with the light on. And if I go up to the bedroom by myself first, I'm like, oh, cool. I'm shutting every door. I'm closing the blackout curtains. I just want it to be pitch black so I can fall asleep more easily. My wife's not like that. And so she likes to leave the door open. I don't know if it's claustrophobia. I don't know if it's just because she's a mom and she wants to hear what the kids are doing. No idea. But I do know this. I know thing that when that door is cracked open, like no matter how dark the rest of the room is, I see all the light coming in through there. And I'm building like little blanket blockers where my pillows. So I trying to bury my head down so I don't have the light waking me up. I'm like, I wish I would have fallen asleep before that door got cracked open. I want it pitch black. And I wonder sometimes as Christians, if we get lost in that same idea where we're not necessarily doing anything wrong, but we're just not doing anything. We just want to sleep, and so we're closing the doors and the blackout curtains, and we're just making it dark just so we can sleep. I'm like, man, wouldn't it be awesome? Wouldn't it be awesome if we started pulling those shades, raising those shades, lifting the shades? Wouldn't it be awesome if we started opening the doors, just letting our light out into the world around us? And so I'm asking the question, what does that mean and what does it look like? When Jesus says, I am the light of the world, what does it mean? So we're going to go into John chapter 8. I want you guys to read this passage with me in John 8, is verse 12. And it says this, it says, as Jesus spoke to the people again, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but they will have the light of life. I am. Jesus says, I am. Jesus is looking at a crowd of people. Jesus is going to be standing up here right now looking at us. And he said, I am the light of the world. And we know what the sun is to the world as it lights it up. And Jesus said, no, but I am the light of the world. And whoever follows me will not walk in the darkness, but they will have the light of life. This is a big, bold statement that Jesus is just speaking out to the crowd. And it's not just the crowd that's hearing it, it's us that's hearing it 2,000 years later. Jesus is the light of the world. And we've heard it over and over again through different messages like this. Jesus is the light of the world. Jesus lights up the world. How does he do that? How is Jesus the light of the world? I'm the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in the darkness. And so I'm breaking all this down in my own mind as I'm writing it out, just preparing my heart for understanding what it means. So first of all, I think we all know that this isn't literal. Jesus just painting a picture for us. He's the light of the world, but he's specifically saying, no, I'm the light for the people who are following after me. I just want to nail that down. So we understand that as Jesus is the light of the world, what he's saying is anyone who follows me, I am their light. I'm the light for whoever follows me, and you don't have to walk in the darkness. That's for us, but is open to the entire world. If you follow Jesus, it means you have a light. You have your light, and it's Jesus as he's lighting up your life. And that's super cool for me because I started picturing different times I've been out in the wilderness. I've been caving before, and it gets pitch black sometimes. And it's so hard to see around, but you bring a flashlight or a lantern, and you can start to see the world around you, and you just don't stub your toes as much, right? You're not crashing into branches. You're so happy that you have that flashlight as you're walking around through the wilderness in the woods at night, right? Going from tent or wherever you're heading. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. What matters is you got your flashlight and you're not hurting yourself as you're traveling around through the woods or caving. Or we want to have that flashlight with us. And I'm like, wow. So Jesus is my light in the world around me, in my life, as I'm living. I have this light that I can turn on and I can see what I'm doing and how to live my life better. I can see this because Jesus is this for me. But it's not just that. As I'm thinking through it, that means my life should be so different than the people who don't have the flashlights and the lanterns. It should be noticeably different. As I'm working my way through this wilderness of life, it should be noticeably different that I've got a flashlight to guide my way. My life should look different to the world around me. People should look at me and go, wow, how's he getting around so well? How come he's not stubbing his toe all the time? How come he's not scratching his face on all the branches? Right? They should see this in my life. And if they don't, I'm pretty sure that means I don't have my flashlight on. It means that I'm walking around in the darkness just as much as everybody else. My life should look different. I shouldn't be beat up as badly as the people who don't have a light. But doesn't it feel like a lot of us seem to be living in the same darkness as the world around us? We end up with the same bruises and scratches. And Jesus says, it doesn't have to be like that. I can be your light. I can guide your paths. Brian said it in his message. It's a lamp unto our feet. We have that guiding our way. We have it. As Christians, following Jesus, he says, if you follow me, follow me. You don't have to walk in the darkness. And then he says that the light is the life. That Jesus and the light that he gives and he offers to the world around him, to all of us who are following him, are actually being led to the life, eternal life through Jesus Christ. Those are important facts and understanding what it means when Jesus says, I am the light of the world. So we have these plants on our wall. We have like this shelf that I had just built recently that my wife was super stoked about, but the more she looks at it, and this you guys don't care about, but it's weighing on me. I built it and it's tilted at a little bit of an angle. It looks good from straight on, but now every time I look at it, my wife looks at it like, but why is it at an angle? You should probably try to fix that. But I got these plants that are on it and it looks so nice. Like I had no vision at all for what she wanted to do. And she said, no, do this. And I put it all together and we got these plants now on the shelf wall and it looks super cool. And I've been watching I don't know, over the last few months, how well she takes care of all these plants that are up. She'll pull them down, she'll water them, and she'll put them back in place. But I'm watching the plants. They've actually changed. Like in the last couple of months since they've been up here on the wall, they've actually changed shape. Like this is amazing, you guys, because they're just plants. They're just dumb. They don't think. They're just dumb plants, but they have changed shape and they're actually growing towards where the light is in the room. Isn't that crazy? This is crazy to think about these plants. Like every single one of you. I mean, I don't know you as well as I know some of these plants, but I would guess that every single one of you is smarter than every single one of my plants. Like if there was any sort of test you had to take, I think you would win. And I hope that you think you would win too. But here's these plants now. Here's these plants that are on my wall, and they know exactly what they need to do in order to live. Exactly. Like knowing without knowing. They just do it. So they're just growing towards the light in the room, and it is shaping the way that they look. How cool is that? Like their entire shape, the shape of their life, the way they're growing and what they're growing towards is all determined by the light that's in the room. Isn't that interesting? I was like, well, yeah, well, plants don't have free will. And I'm like, what if they did have free will? I don't know what's bad for plants. I have no idea. So I started thinking about like what could be bad for me or people in general. I'm like, well, too much chocolate could be bad. And so I'm like, well, what if plants loved chocolate? My son did an experiment with plants. Hey, I should use this instead. When he was in school, he had to do this class project with his buddies. Like, what helps plants grow the best? And he experimented with water and Gatorade and I think milk. I think it was water was the only thing that they really were kind of nourishment from. Like Gatorade, I was like, maybe Gatorade, but nope, not Gatorade or milk. It was bad for the plants. And so let's say this. Let's say that milk. Let's say milk is delicious for the plants. Like they're like, it doesn't help me at all, and it actually hurts me, but I love milk. And so now these plants, right? They're on my plant wall, and they get all this nourishment from the light. Are you guys following me on this one? This is the best analogy you'll ever hear. And they're growing towards the light. But then I put milk up on the shelf as well. And so you know what we're going to see? This is what we're going to see. I guarantee it. We're going to see sneaky little branches coming out of the back of the plants, right? Reaching for the milk. There's some of these branches are going to start growing towards the milk. And they think they're going to be sly about it. But I'm going to be able to see the branch. I'm like, I know what you're doing. I can tell by the way you look right now. Like you have all these other ones going towards the light, but I can see those branches in the back. And look, you're not as healthy as you used to be. You're actually kind of dying right now, right? You're not growing the way that you were growing when you're just reaching towards the light. Like I can see all of this happening, but they think they could just sneak one or two branches back there and do good. Like milk is poisonous, you guys. That milk's bad for you. Don't grow towards the milk. That's what I'm saying. Don't stop it. Stop doing that. It is bad. And they know it's bad. They do. But it's delicious. So they do it anyway. Do I have to lay this out? Like, probably don't have to break this down. Like, you know where your milk is, right? You know where that delicious milk is in your life. You know the milk you've been growing towards. But you also know how great it is to have that light. You know what it feels like to grow towards that. You love that light. It's just Satan just keeps putting milk on that shelf with you. And you're like, why are you doing this? He's like, because I want you to be distracted from what's good for you. So what is it in your life then that you know, but other people might even be able to see that you've been growing towards? Where are your sneaky little branches going? It's bitterness is a common one these days. There are so many things in the world around us to be bitter about. I know it. I know every time I turn on the news or listen to some radio, I know the bitterness that's out there and how easy it is just to grow my branches towards that bitterness and just get my nourishment from some of that bitterness, some of that anger that's out there. There's so much anger and divisiveness. Every time we pull open our social media, It's just filled with bitterness and anger and divisiveness. And we're nourishing our lives with it. Right? We're growing our branches into it. And the world around us knows. They know. They can see those branches growing that way. They can see what our life looks like and how it's being nourished or not nourished, poisoned by the bitterness and anger that we're growing towards. They see it. They know the difference from when we were only reaching towards the light and when we started reaching towards that anger and that bitterness. Greed is a big one. We start being nourished by our greed because we're not content with what we have, and there's so much more we could have, and we see other people that have more, and so we just start reaching some branches out towards that. We just want a little bit better, just a little bit, and so we're grabbing towards a little bit better, and now our life is being nourished, poisoned by our greed and lust. Lust is a big one. Lust is everywhere. There's so many branches across the church congregations that are growing out towards lust, and they're being nourished by lust. And Jesus says, I'm the light. I'm the light. And it's me that wants to light up your life and bring you life. Right? Through me, you can have life. You're not going to get life through any of those other things. Right? And I know you got branches that are growing towards those. Sometimes just got to break the branches off. It's the only way to start growing properly again. It's just some pruning in our lives. And if that means you need to prune out talk radio, if it means you need to prune out social media, if it means you need to prune out some of your friends, you just do. If they were your plants and you knew, you're like, they keep going towards the milk. Why are they going towards the milk? You knew it. Wouldn't every single one of you, for the sake of those plants that you love, get rid of the milk? Just take it off the shelf? How much more so then should you love your relationship with Jesus? Just get rid of those things that are causing your branches to grow the wrong direction so that you can grow towards the light, Jesus, who is our eternal life. Hard. I know. It's really hard. Stinking free will, right? Free will. It gets us every single time. If only we could be dumb like plants. But we don't want to be plants. And God didn't make us to be plants. God made us with free will in mind because he wants us to reach out towards him because we want to. So here we are now, trying to outsmart the plants and prove to the world around us, I am really smarter than a plant, you guys. I am. Well, let's prove it to them. Can we prove it to them? Let's prove it to them. All right, so in order to do that, we're going to keep reading some of this stuff and understand this is a calling for us and how we are supposed to live our lives. So let's go now to John chapter 3. So you're still going to be in John. You're just going to go back a couple of chapters, 3, and we'll start reading verse 21. Jesus has just got done with this amazing conversation, a one-on-one that he had with Nicodemus, trying to share with Nicodemus what it looks like to be a Christian or to really follow Jesus. But he says this in verse 19, it says, this is the verdict. This is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people loved darkness instead of the light because their deeds were evil. All right, we get that. That's why we turn the light off, and that's why we close the door. That's why we hide in the darkness. We know it's because we're trying to hide our evil deeds, not just from the world around us, but even from ourselves, trying to pretend like they're not really there. And so he says, people love the darkness. He says this, everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God. It's overcoming the darkness, but it's overcoming our own evil desires. is really just saying, no, I don't want these evil desires in my life anymore. So I'm going to start turning the light on. I'm flipping the switch, or I'm turning on my flash. I'm lighting the lamp, whatever it is. It's Brian saying, I'm reading my Bible 15 minutes a day. It's this. I'm lighting up my life so I don't have a place in my life to hide anymore, because I don't want to live in the darkness. Because I know this. I know that when I live in the darkness, I also do the things of the darkness, that I can hide in the darkness. And so I turn that light on so I can escape my own evil desires. A while back, our family we went on a road trip. We ended up in Santa Cruz, and Santa Cruz has this boardwalk, and we pulled into the hotel kind of late. It was dark late, not late, but dark late. And we're like, we want to go see the boardwalk in the dark. We wanted to see it light up, it was just because it was going to look really cool. And we had just gotten parked, and we're like, let's do something fun. So anyway, all of this is going through our minds, but we weren't very far from the boardwalk. We were blocks away. And so I was like, do we go down, pay for parking, look for parking, or we just walk the couple of blocks it's going to take to get there? Well, I'm cheap, and we can all walk. So I was like, this could be kind of an adventure anyway. And so we decided to walk down to the boardwalk, and it was an adventure, and it was way longer than I thought that it was. People can say something's close all they want, but until you walk it yourself, right, you're like, they were wrong. And my whole family let me know the entire journey how wrong everybody was about how long this walk was. And so there were certain parts of this trip that were so dark. I'm like, this is a real pathway. Like, this feels like we're making up our own pathway, because we end up in a trail that leads to a bridge that nothing was lit up. And so now I'm like, are these people around me good? They could do anything they want right now to me and my family, and nobody would know, because I'm on this weird path in the dark. Well, we make it into Santa Cruz, and nothing had happened at all. And we're on the boardwalk, and we have a good time, the typical good time, but then they're closing it down, and it's time to leave. And it's even later than it had been. And so now it's time to go back to the hotel. And I was like, well, okay, the way back is through that dark pathway. And I was like, all of us are like, what do we do? And I'm all, well, hey, instead of going back that way, where it was that weird trail and that bridge and people could murder us and get away with it, maybe we should just walk through the city blocks. It's longer, but safer. And so anyway, I talked to family. I said, we'll go this way. And we started, and suddenly there was like yelling and screaming coming from the direction I was trying to take the family. And there were people in the streets fighting. I'm all, that doesn't look good at all. And we talked to one of the security guards nearby, and he says, we say, is that safe to walk? I mean, is this a safe area? And he said, no. I'm all, what? Because I totally expected him to say, you guys are dumb. That's what I expected. But he said, no, don't walk. No, call an Uber. He said, that's the flats. He said, you don't walk through the flats late at night. I'm all, really? Is it really that bad? And so I'm all, it's not that far. And I'm like, but now I'm like, should I still walk that way? And I got to tell you, when I was younger with my buddies, I wouldn't even ask security guard, right? I would have been like, so what? What's going to happen? Right? We're young and tough. Well, whatever it is, we're young and stupid. It doesn't even matter. We're like, we can do this, guys. But now I'm looking around at my family. I'm like, I don't want anything to happen to them. Right? And I'm thinking, I've got this conflict inside of me. I'm like, nothing's really going to happen. It's not going to happen. And I'm like, but what if it does? And so I'm battling myself inside. I could just make them go. We're not calling it. We're just walking, you guys. It's going to be fine. I have all this going on in my head, and they're like, but we don't want to walk. And it's scary. I'm like, but nothing's going to happen. I don't know if anything was going to happen. No idea. We call an Uber. That's what I know. And we drove back. And I think of my walk with Jesus and how many times I've turned off the light or didn't light up the lamp. And I was leading my family and thinking, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen? It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Nothing really happens. I did this when I was younger, right? I did this when I was younger. Nothing happened. I'm here. I'm doing fine. Like spiritually, I wonder how many times we have that same argument without even knowing that we're having it. We're walking our family through the flats. We're walking our friends through the flats and our coworkers through the flats. Anything or anybody that we have an influence over, anybody that's watching us or with us in our life journey, and we're walking them through the flats because nothing's really going to happen. But then it really does happen sometimes to some people. And maybe I would have made it through, but someone in my family would have got hurt because I decided to turn that light off. And I know, I'm using an analogy. I know it's not really the flats, but it could just be the people that you're hanging out with and are influencing your kids and your family members. And it could be the movies or the music that you're listening to. It could be your own posts that you're posting on social media. Whatever it is, it's the flats that are our life that we're walking through, that you might be making it, but hurting the people that are with you. And we have to take that into consideration. I was thinking this. Jesus is the light. I was like, how much strength and power does that actually give me now? Like, I was thinking, if I was with Jesus in the flats, like if Jesus just appeared and said, hey, Travis, we got this. Like, I would feel much more empowered. Like, Jesus is like, hey, come on, Travis, we can walk the flats. I'd be like, hey, I'm with Jesus. I can walk through the flats with Jesus. Right? That would give me all the strength and power that I need, or confidence that I need in walking through the flats. Like, anybody that we're walking through the flats, or like any sort of conflict that might come up, the yelling and screaming or the fighting that we saw up ahead, I'm like, that might be intimidating. There might be a little fear factor happening, but I would be able to look right over at Jesus. I'm like, yeah, but I got Jesus. I should be fine, right? And then I'm like, how much more can I put that into work, into the rest of my life, into everything that I'm going through in life? I just every dumb little thing that I'm going through in life. Because I got to tell you, just even on the way to church this morning, I'd left later than I normally do, and I got stuck behind a person that didn't know what a free right turn was. And my daughter's in the car with me, and I'm like, they don't even know they can turn right now. And I'm complaining on the way to church. You're gonna make me late to church because he doesn't know how. And then he turned into the wrong lane, and he's in the wrong lane now. And I'm all, how much better would life be, like in every aspect of life, if I had Jesus just right next to me? I'm like, I'm stuck behind a guy who can't turn, but I'm with Jesus, right? I got, and then I'd be like, Jesus doesn't want to hear me talking like this. I'm ruining my relationship with Jesus. Jesus is saying, Travis, knock it off. You're going to be fine, right? All through any aspect of life. Like even, you know, if we were talking about social media, right? I'm going to write this. You don't think I should write that, Jesus? You think I should write something else? You don't think I should respond right now? It's like everything. Life, you know, we end up with problems with people at work. We're like, oh, well, maybe I should. And then Jesus like, maybe we should just walk through this together, Travis. Maybe we could get through work today a little bit better if you're just walking with me. And it's even our sicknesses. You know, some of us are experiencing chronic sickness. Some of us have serious health issues. Just walking with Jesus makes it better for us. We just turn to Jesus, and we just know that we have the comfort and strength of Jesus by our side in every aspect of our walk. Jesus is our light that leads to life. And that should look different than the people around us that don't have their lights on. That's Jesus for us, lighting up the world that we live in, our world that we live in. So what do we do? What do we do with all of it? How do we apply this in a way where it starts to make sense and starts to show the world what we mean, what we think it means when we're living by the light of Jesus? I want to read one more thing. We're going to read two more things. One more thing right now. In Matthew 9, verse 5, it just says this. It just says, while I am in the world, Jesus says, while I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Then he talks about there might be a time of darkness where some of these things won't be able to take effect. But he says, while I'm in the world, things are going to look different because I'm the light of the, while I'm here, it will look different because I'm here. While I'm with you in the flats, it'll look different because I am here with you in the flats, right? While you are driving in traffic between people that don't know how to turn on their blinkers, it's going to look different because I'm here with you in the traffic. While you're walking in sickness, it's going to look different because I'm with you. Right? Everything looks different when we're walking with Jesus, the light of our lives. Everything does. You know what Jesus does next, though? And this is the aspect of the entire message that I don't want any of us to miss. Right? He drops a bomb. He really, really mixes things up in a major way. My dad was telling me when he was younger in high school, he said this. He said that he ran track. And track is one of those sports. I'm like, who runs track? Who does that one? But he was fast. And so he got recruited to run track. And he's talking about how he was part of the relay team and they would pass, pretty sure it's a baton. Okay, good. Because it sounded girly when I said it. And I'm like, but I think it's also a track thing. And so they passed the baton and he would run anchor because he was the fastest one on his team. And he said, man, there are some times the rest of the team in front of me, as they were running, right, they lost a lot of ground. And they would hand me the baton and I would just have to run as fast as I possibly could. And it was only up to me. I was the only one now who could win this race. It is all up to me to try to catch up and pass the other people that had gained ground on me, on our team. And so he would have to run with everything that he had in order to try to catch up and still win the race. What a tough position that would be to be in, right? Because you're that person. You saw the people in front of you, like you're watching, you're like, okay, every single one of these people in front of me are losing ground, which means when it's finally my turn, there's even more ground that I have to make up. And you're just watching and waiting. You're like, just give me the baton. Like the sooner you can get me the baton, the less ground it is that I've lost because I can start finally moving and you're not losing ground anymore. And it's kind of, it's kind of similar in the Olympics and it kind of plays into my light analogy better anyway. But they would pass the torch as they're running and getting the Olympics set up and they're moving from place to place. They're passing a torch, lighting up the world around them as they're running. And I'm like, okay. So here we are looking past generations. And all these past generations, all of them have led to us today. All of these past generations, they've led to us. And it's as if they're passing the torch to us. We're the next ones that are in line. We are, every single one of us, we're that next generation that the baton or the torch has been passed to, and it's our turn to run. And here's the worst part of the whole story is they've all lost ground. Like for the last few generations, we just know this statistically speaking. Here in the United States, they have lost ground year after year after year. We have less Christians than we have in the past, losing ground. Now the torch has been passed on to us. And we can continue to run the same way that they were running. We can continue to lose ground, but just run. But we're running, but it's okay because we're running. We're still racing, right? We're still in the race. But something happened along the way. And I'm not sure I'm not sure if it's that we stopped running as hard as we had in the past, or if our enemy just started running harder. I don't know which one it is. But I know that we have lost ground, and someone has to catch up. Someone does. There is a generation that has to catch up, because if we don't ever end up with that generation, we just lose. We get to a point where it's just game over, the race is done. And I don't want to be that generation that continues to go down the same path that we've been going on. I want to be the generation that changes it up, that starts running harder and faster, that knows that we are in a race for the lives of the people around us. This is real. This is real. So this is what Jesus does. This is Matthew chapter 5. Jesus says this. He says, you are the light of the world. You are. The town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone that's in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father who is in heaven. You are the light of the world. So everything we think of when we're asked what it means when Jesus says he's the light of the world is everything that it means when Jesus says we are the light of the world. We are. And 2,000 years ago, Jesus passed the baton to the next generation. And they were amazing, you guys. They changed the world around them. They lit it up. And the generation that followed them did the same thing. Somewhere, we stopped running as hard. We're just not lighting it up the way that we used to. We need to. Jesus said it's us, the light. So I end with this story. On New Year's Eve, me and my daughter, my niece, we ran up to the store and we're like, we didn't get any fireworks. We got to get some sparklers. And so we wanted to get some sparklers, and they didn't have the sparklers. So we ended up with all the really annoying, noisy stuff that they sell at the store. And so we ended up with those horns that you blow and some pop it things. And we went back. We're like, well, this is going to be fun anyway, and we're going to make it as fun as we possibly can. And so we did the countdown, and we all had our horns. And so, 10, 9, 8, 7, what you guys know what a countdown is. We hit New Year's, the brand new year. And then we all just started blowing our horns. We're like, horn noises everywhere. And it was annoying. And it was loud, and it was an attention getter. But we annoyed ourselves with how annoying those horns were, trying to be fun and trying to make something out of it. And then I saw through one of our windows that we had some neighbors that had gotten some fireworks, and they were lighting them off. And it was so pretty. And I called everyone over. I said, look at this. And we ended up going outside just to watch the fireworks that our neighbors had lit off, just lighting up the sky. And what if Christianity looked like that? I think a lot of us, we get caught up in just making noise. And we end up annoying the world around us. And we're getting attention, but it's not good attention. What if instead of just being noise makers, we started lighting up the sky and people were drawn to how beautiful the light is that Jesus has to offer? Wouldn't that be awesome? He says this. He says, that people will begin to praise God because of the good deeds that are in our lives. Praising God. So this is how I'll end it. We have this amazing good news about Jesus. It's the good news of Jesus Christ and how he died for the world so that we could be saved into eternity. We have this. And we know the good news. But I think being the light isn't just about sharing the good news. It's sharing the good news through our good deeds. And it shows in this passage that we ended with how our good deeds will bring praise to God through the world around us. So let's bring the world the good news through our good deeds. Let's pray. God, thank you for Jesus and the example that he was and is for us, that we have life through him. And I pray that you'll give us the strength that it takes to live a life that he's called us to live, that we can run the race with that torch, just lighting up the world around us as we go, and that we can start to see people in our lives begin to praise you because of us being the light that we're called to be. In Jesus' name, amen.